I want to talk about doing drafting work on your work of fiction, be it a short story, a book, a screenplay. As an example, believe it or not, way back in the early days of the internet, we used the telephone lines to get the internet. And we had these 56K modems, and most web pages were only showed text, some pictures, and a lot of the times it took a long time for the pictures to load on a web page. You know, so you go and pour another cup of coffee while that page is loading. And a lot of the images, first the image would show, but you couldn't see it very clearly. It was pixelated, or it had the boxes. So you could kind of get an idea of what that picture was, and then if you watched, you could see it. It was kind of like doing a scan, where then it would be like a line going down the image, and as that line went down, the image would show more clearly because it was adding information to that image, and it was gaining resolution. So if you had an image of high resolution, that meant many more points of color and light information that it was adding, and the picture gained depth and looked more realistic and was more convincing and had more impact and told you more about what the picture was of. So what I want to talk about are these scans. And it would go through a few scans before the picture finished loading. So when you're starting on your second or third draft of your story, in effect you're very much like doing that scan. You're going over the story and you're adding information and you're changing the quality of the information. And the picture is going to become clear and become more convincing. How do we do this? First of all, doing draft work is only a little bit about correcting grammar and changing sentences around so that they're not as ambiguous and they are spoken more clearly, and you're working out the awkwardness, taking the awkwardness out of the linguistics of a paragraph and making it flow more smoothly. All very important in draft work, and also a very minor part of draft work. Draft work is mostly about improving the quality of the story in terms of information. So when you start on another draft, it's like you're going over that story, and you're doubling the mind power you're putting on each linear instance of that story. So as you go through in your scene, you can think of what are other things in the background that would better depict that place, and you'll have another go at creating what you want to have in that scene and what you want your characters to say and what you want to have happen. So when you go through it again, try to be as creative as you were the first time. Try to think of as many things that happen and as many things that people say and as many elements and details that you can include. And then you have more options. You might take something out and put something else in. So you have another go at what you want a particular detail to be that would most convey your story to your reader. Now, I'm glad I enjoyed writing before I had the opportunity to do basically advanced drafting. That's where I'm doing like my 10th draft on a story, because I enjoyed it before, but it was nothing how enjoyable it can be when you're doing advanced drafting, because then I'm talking magic. It is so enjoyable to be able to see resolution where with it feels so much easier to do, and the improvements become so much more striking. And if you're going along doing a draft where you're thinking of new things that your characters say, you find yourself working on a document that it's just, I recommend it to anyone. It is one of the best experiences I think a human can hope to experience. That's advanced drafting, where you've already done these resolution scans and you're working on a work that you created that is really gaining some incredible resolution, and you're getting the benefits from it because you're working on a very high quality story, and you can feel how much it will compel the reader, and you feel the freedom of how many creative choices you get to make about what's going to happen. And if you have a funny character, that character becomes funnier, and if you have a melodramatic, very sad scene, you can make that scene sadder. And if you have an exciting scene, you can tweak the timing and have it that much more exciting. But doing draft work is not something that just happens. You don't just go and re-look over the work. You start out with objectives. You go in and you scene for scene, sit down and possibly write up a list beforehand, before you start your draft, about what you want to focus on, and say, I want to focus on the dialogue, or I want to focus on the timing. Have 1 to 3 things that you really want to focus on in that next draft. And as you go through, scene for scene, on separate piece of paper outside of the story, do brainstorms about other things that the characters can say, and other things that you would include. Maybe you decide to have traffic going on in the background, which will give your scene a different feeling. Be open to changes, and have other pieces of paper or work outside of your story, and go ahead and write down everything that you're thinking of, and then from there you can pick and choose and decide what to take out and what to put in. One of the best things you can do for before you start the next draft is put it away. Don't look at it. If you don't look at it for a year, that's great. You can work on other projects in the meantime, but it's incredibly helpful to, in a way, in your mind, hit the reset by forgetting about the story, putting it away. Don't even look at it for a period of time long enough that when you go back to it, you're returning to it with a different mind. We change and we become different people over a period of time, and if you try it, you'll see how it works. If you return to some of, dig up, some of your earlier work and try doing some draft work on it and see what happens, and, to see what I'm talking about. Draft work is mostly about increasing the resolution. It is not about making the story longer. You are adding information, you are adding to the quality of the information. So have in mind, you don't want to go in and describe every object that is in every room, and you want to work with economy. So a lot of the times it's about switching out details. So you find a detail that very much conveys that scene or that character, and you find that one works better for the other, and that you also you want to economize. You want to cut down on the length of the story. People don't like to trudge through a huge reading project. They want to get a lot of enjoyment out of a project that is small enough for them to enjoy, and they don't want a 10-volume story. They want a 1-volume story where the quality of where the story has been thought over 10 times instead of 1 time. If you provide the right details sparingly, your reader will subconsciously fill in the rest, will make your story feel real to them, and they will feel like they are actually there. I hope this was helpful. I hope your writing goes great. Please, if you have any time, check out my fiction project at solomation.com. It's called Terrible Immunity. And also hit the like button and subscribe. And if you have any further thoughts about resolution, drafting work, what it's like to have done your 20th draft on a story, please leave a comment, and I hope you have a good day.